Hi everyone, welcome to the Whiteleyverse with me, Connor Whiteley, for another daily short story. Now, before I start today's story, please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you want to buy this short story and any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers and at your local bookstore and local library if you requested, and you can order paperback copies from Amazon. Now, here's today's short story. I hope you enjoyed just as much as I did writing it.
Memorable night. Looking at the neat array of swim shorts laid on his perfectly made black bed, Tom stood there wide-eyed at them all. He didn't know why he was making such a big deal of it. Did it really matter what swim shorts he wore? Wanting to take his mind of this strangely big decision, Tom raised his head, instantly regretting doing that, as he saw all the piles or collapsed piles of clothes around his large bedroom. He knew his bedroom had wonderful brown hardwood floors, but they were slightly taken over by various piles of dirty clothes. Equally, the entire bedroom was a mess. The very nice large mirror on his built-in wardrobe only hid the mess within. It had taken Tom at least an hour to find these pairs of swim shorts. But at least the entire flat didn't smell of sweat and sadly tears. Instead, Tom had made sure to buy a few scented candles so the flat smelt of cloves and spices, making the taste of carrot cake form in Tom's mouth. Hearing the evening traffic of London starting to build up with all the honking of cars and swearing of drivers, Tom looked out the massive clear windows of his high-rise flat. The beautiful London landscape starting to change from its boring and chaotic commuter daytime to its fun and amazing nighttime, especially on a Friday night. As the sky started to turn a beautiful fiery orange, the Shard and other wonderful London landmarks started to light up. But this made Tom know he needed to hurry up and go to this silly hot tub party. But he knew he didn't really want to go. It wasn't that he didn't want to see his friends after a hard week at work, but a part of Tom just wanted to relax at home. Maybe watch a film and hopefully meet someone on Grindr. Because as much as he loved his friends, that was probably their only flaw. They were all straight and Tom was the only gay they knew, making them great at being friends and people to hang out with, but not the best for meeting boys with. Well, Tom did smile a little at the horrific attempt his bestie Ruby made once to introduce him to a guy. They didn't go well. Tom even remembered getting a drink thrown in his face. Was it bad that Tom just wanted to spend the night at home, hoping to find a boyfriend online? Looking at the swim shorts laid out in front of him, Tom knew he had to go. He loved his friends, and Ruby would never forgive him for not going. Reaching down and picking up a bright blue pair of shorts, Tom felt the smooth material in between his fingers. It felt good. Tom knew it looked great on, and a fair number of boys had mentioned that fact at the sauna. But he was going out with friends, straight ones at that. He couldn't dress to impress. Could he? Shaking his head, Tom put them down and picked up a black pair. The material felt worn but smooth in his hand, and a hint of lavender conditioner filled the air. Tom remembered the last time he wore these shorts. That was a fun evening with his friends at a water park, with the whirlpool, and Ruby almost getting kicked out by a very hot lifeguard. Smiling at those memories, Tom grabbed the shorts and looked out the window to see the amazing London eveningscape. It was going to be a great night. So Tom headed out to the hot tub party. Maybe something memorable would happen again. As the hot water of the large water hot tub made his body warm and his skin wonderfully relaxed, Neil definitely knew he loved the hot tub. He didn't know why he had said no to Ruby before. This was great. Looking up at the pink-tiled walls of this large hot tub room in Ruby's penthouse flat, Neil couldn't believe how she could afford it. He had known Ruby for months now since he first moved to London, and as far as he knew, she didn't appear to have a high-paid job. Neil thought she did something in publishing, but Ruby never said what exactly. Looking at the hot tub and the expensive brand name, Neil guessed this was certainly family money. But Ruby was a great person, so he didn't care. The smell of chlorine made Neil relax even more for some strange reason. Then the sound of kissing reminded Neil he wasn't alone. But he would happily be alone in this wonderfully warm hot tub. Looking over, Neil felt uncomfortable as Ruby, in her bright pink bikini that supposedly highlighted her slim, attractive frame and her youthful, smooth features, continued to make out with her boyfriend Kieran. Now Neil could happily look at Kieran all night with his tight shorts, massive muscles, and strong jawline. But the two of them making out in front of him just made Neil uncomfortable. A part of Neil wondered when this new person Ruby had mentioned was meant to arrive. Neil remembered Ruby saying they would get on great, but dear, sweet Ruby wasn't to be trusted when she said that. The stories Neil needed to forget. The people Ruby thought were gay and weren't made Neil be laughed at, or worse, more times than he could count. But Ruby was a great friend, so he laughed about it. After this week at his job though, Neil really wouldn't mind something good happening. Even if it was just someone to talk to for the rest of the night, and maybe make a new friend. The last thing Neil wanted was to be an awkward third wheel on what looked like Ruby and Kieran's first date in a while. Looking away and focusing on the warm water gently run over his skin, Neil thought about his various attempts at dating. Up north, he had had so many bad relationships, Neil didn't want to think about them anymore. Then he bit his lip as he thought about his last boyfriend and how badly that had ended. The heartache, the trouble at work, and the uncomfortable home life. Neil wasn't going to let that happen again. In all honesty, Neil hoped moving to London might be easier. There was plenty of insurance work after all, but the boys here seemed so cliquey and only interested in hookups. He didn't want that. He just wanted something real. Something he hadn't had for a long time. A loud bird sound echoed around the flat multiple times as someone ran the doorknob. Neil had to smile as Ruby hopped out the hot tub and walked to the door, leaving a long trail of water behind her. He had no idea what to expect. Neil hadn't met too many of Ruby's friends. What if he didn't like him? Or worse, what if this friend didn't like him? Neil liked hanging out with Ruby. He didn't want to be kicked out because this friend didn't like him. Knowing he was being ridiculous, Neil took a long deep breath, tasting the horrid chlorine in his mouth, and focused on just acting normal. He didn't need to be nervous. This was just a friend of Ruby's. Hearing two sets of footsteps coming back, Neil tried to act cool as Ruby stepped into the hot tub. She looked at Neil and smiled. Then Neil turned back to look at the door. Wow! Neil couldn't help but smile at this honestly stunning guy that walked in and stared at Neil. He was beautiful. This mystery guy was stunning with his handsome youthful face and his strong jawline. His wonderful hazelnut hair was parted perfectly to the left, and his tight little black shorts were great. Neil tried to force himself to look at something else, but he couldn't. Mystery guy was perfection. Even better, he kept smiling at Neil. Seeing Ruby walk ahead into the hot tub room, Tom stopped for a moment to think. As if looking at the posh paintings hanging on the corridor walls would buy him time, Tom looked at them and thought. He could smell the strong chlorine, and the hot steam covered his skin even from out here. His stomach twisted. Tom didn't know whether or not he should go in. He didn't know this new person, and what if they were horrible? Ruby had a cute habit of picking hot guys that turned out to be jerks. Could Tom really handle going through more rejection? He just wanted something real and fun. Was that really much to ask? Deciding he had to go in, Tom walked forward into the hot tub. He really didn't want to look at the people at first, so he looked at the interesting choice of pink tiles that lined the hot tub room. It was hot in here. Sweat had already started to pour off him. Turning his attention to the hot tub, Tom made sure not to smile at Kieran, despite him looking great, and he gave Ruby an awkward little nod to her then. Oh! Tom couldn't help himself but smile at this new guy. He was hot lying there in the hot tub. His chiseled, defined jaw and amazing face. He looked like some kind of model. Trust Ruby to know models. The water covered and made new guy's skin and amazing muscles shine. He was beautiful. Ruby cut through the silence. Tom Fab, you make it. This is Neil. Tom couldn't stop smiling. Neil was a posh, hot name. Ruby turned to Neil. Neil, this is Tom. It didn't look like Neil could speak, so he gave Tom a massive smile and nod. Without hesitating anymore, Tom stepped into the hot tub. Feeling the warm water cover his skin up to his chest, he turned to look at Neil. I knew you two would get along fab, Ruby said. It's nice to meet you, Tom, Neil said, giving Tom a boyish smile. Same. Has Ruby gotten you into trouble yet? Tom asked. Neil looked at Ruby. If you mean getting drinks thrown at me and shouted at. Yes. Tom bit his lip and smiled. This was going to be a great night. Finally, another person to complain or mock Ruby with. Rub told Neil about the lifeguard. Ruby buried her face in Kieran's shoulders. Tom paused for a brief moment. Before tonight he would have been jealous. Now he couldn't care less. Odd? Neil, me and some friends went to a water park. Rub sees a hot lifeguard. Grabs me. Tries to pimp me to him, and well, he wasn't happy. That was a fab day, and you know it. And that lifeguard was hot, and he was checking out Tom. He was checking me out, because you were next to me. Ruby cocked her head. Oh. As much as Tom loved Ruby, she was utterly hopeless for romance at times. A part of Tom was amazed she had been with Kieran for so long. Kieran moved about in the water for a moment, but Tom kept looking at Neil. Where do you come from, Neil? You sound northern, Kieran asked. You speak southern, Tom said. Neil smiled. I was raised in the north, but my parents made sure I spoke proper. Kieran shook his head, clearly expecting a more interesting story. Oh, Ruby was telling me you were thinking about leaving London, Kieran asked. Neil gave Tom a quick look. That was just a thought. I may or may not. Depends if something keeps me here. After another half an hour of talking, Tom had to admit this was great. He hadn't talked this freely for months, maybe years. Talking with Neil was so easy. They spoke about their love of books, London, and their various relationships. This was great, but was it too great? And that was before Tom thought about Neil leaving London. It was stupid, but Tom didn't want that to happen. They had only just met, but that didn't mean it didn't bother Tom. The sound of Ruby standing up, and the warm water rushing off her, made Tom turn his focus to her. She came over and tapped him on the shoulder. Tom, come with me. I need helping with the drinks. Standing up, Tom didn't really want to leave. He wanted to stay and talk to Neil. He didn't know what he wanted to talk about, Tom just wanted to. But he didn't want his interest to be too intense, so he stood up and looked at Neil before walking out with Ruby. Watching Tom walk away with his beautiful body moving smoothly and perfectly, Neil felt his spirit fall a little. He didn't want to see Tom go. Hell, this was the first time since coming to London he had felt comfortable. All the hurrying and chaos of London was too much sometimes. That was part of the reason Neil wanted to leave London. But maybe if London was filled with people like Tom, then maybe it wasn't so bad. Maybe Neil just needed to stay a bit longer and get to know this hot guy. The feeling of moving warm water made Neil feel relaxed, but this didn't distract him from his problems. Of course, he wanted to spend time with Tom and see him. Maybe learn a bit more, but he had done this so many times before. Every single time was meant to be different and with new, or old faces. And every time Neil got involved and opened up to these people, he got hurt. The last breakup was too bad. Neil couldn't go through that again. It didn't matter that it happened between him and a work friend. It still happened and hurt so much. Staring at the rather nice pink tiles that lined the room, Neil thought about the typical London boys he had met. They were interested in hookups only. Sure, they were fun, but Neil just wanted something real. Would Tom be interested in that? What you thinking about? Kieran asked. Despite him not knowing much about Kieran, Neil did want to know a bit more about Tom. What sort of boys does Tom like? Kieran laughed, and looked at the ceiling. Neil didn't know what was funny. Ruby knew this would happen. "You like him?" Neil didn't want to seem easy or predictable, but he shook his head anyway. "Just ask him out. Tom's a great guy. Kind, easy to talk to. Just take a chance." "Did Ruby tell you to say that?" Kieran nodded. "She just wants to be a matchmaker. You know, she tries to make people happy." Kieran did have a point, but Ruby had made so many mistakes. Neil always made sure he laughed them off to her, but they hurt. They really hurt. A guy can only take so many drinks in the face, awkward moments, and rejection. What if Tom was just another bad choice from Ruby? "Ask him out," Kieran said as he got out of the hot tub and wiped himself with a towel. "Great seeing you again. I need to get up early tomorrow." "Bye," Neil said as Kieran walked away. A part of Neil was happy that Kieran was gone. For some reason, he liked the idea of there being one less person in the hot tub. One less person between him and Tom. Maybe he would ask Tom out. Feeling the cold black plastic seat of the high stool under him, Tom sat at the high marble table of Ruby's kitchen, tracing the black veins of the smooth marble with his fingers as he thought about life and, most importantly, Neil. The smell of strong vodka, pineapple, and other sweet exotic fruits made Tom smile as the taste of sweet fruity sugar formed on his tongue. And a memory of his 18th birthday party came into his mind. Ruby was a good friend that night. She was always a good friend. Raising his head slightly, Tom admired the amazing kitchen Ruby had in her penthouse apartment. The kitchen was probably bigger than Tom's entire flat. High-end expensive gadgets and tools lined all the walls, hiding under the worktops. A part of Tom was tempted to be cruel by asking Ruby what each one was and how it worked. But he knew she had no idea. That's why she had Kieran. Her strong, perfect man that did things for her. Looking at Ruby in front of him, Tom admired how quickly and artfully she mixed the drinks, including a rather strange-looking long glass filled with pink juice and slices of pineapple. She always had his best interests at heart. Tom knew Ruby was a type of friend that acted like the carefree wild card of a group. And Tom knew for a fact she was a wild card. But Ruby was also the type of friend who always acted in the interest of others. Ruby cared about Tom. She would never want to see him hurt. That still didn't make Tom feel any less uneasy. Of course, he wanted to be with Neil and explore what could happen. He was beautiful, stunning, and Neil was a great guy. But Tom had thought that before about other guys, and that never ever ended well. What if he got hurt again? What if he never recovered? What if? So many questions churned and spun round in his mind. "You thinking about Neil? Isn't he fab?" Ruby said. Tom looked up and smiled at her. "Just ask him out. He must care about you. I know him. He is absolutely fab. Perfect even." "You've said that before," Tom said. "Yes, but Neil is different. He is just so kind and perfect. What's holding you back? What if he doesn't like me?" "Oh, Tommy, he keeps looking at you. He keeps checking you out. He loves you. He's..." "Please don't say fab." "He's fabulous," Ruby said. Tom smiled and shook his head. Ruby walked over to Tom and hugged him. "Tommy, we're known each other for 10 years. God, I need to get a life." Tom playfully jabbed her in the ribs. "Tommy, though, I have never hurt you or tried to. Have I?" Tom shook his head. Ruby was about to say something when Kieran walked in and kissed Ruby before whispering something in her ear. She smiled. Kieran walked off, presumably to bed. Normally, Tom would watch Kieran walk away, but this time he really didn't want to. He knew that had to be a sign, but actually it was a sign. Tom smiled as he realized since meeting Neil, he hadn't thought or even looked at another guy, even Kieran, who was usually very hot. Looking around, Tom saw that he was alone. He shook his head when he realized Kieran was probably inviting Ruby to bed. The sound of wet footsteps came from behind, and Tom felt a warm, badly dried arm wrap around him. His skin buzzed, and it was like a spark rushed through him. Looking up, Tom couldn't happy but smile as he looked into Neil's strong, beautiful eyes and felt his great, stunning body pressed against him. This really was the time to stop being afraid. Ruby always wanted the best for him, so Tom was going to take a chance, trust his friend, and enjoy this moment and hopefully many more. "I think I might stay in London if you want that," Neil said. Tom's smile deepened. This was going to be fun. A chance to spend more time, and hopefully do a lot more together. So as Tom stood up, gently held Neil's soft warm hand in his own. Tom led him back to the hot tub as his stomach and head went light. This was going to be a memorable night, and hopefully many more memorable nights to come.
Welcome back everyone, it's me again, Connor Whiteley. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's story, because I flat out love writing, creating stories and sharing them with you. If you really enjoyed today's story, then please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithms. And if you want to buy this short story or any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers, and you can get them from your local library if you requested, and you can order the paperback copies from Amazon, your local bookstore or local library if you request it. Lastly, if you want to support the channel on a one-off basis, then you can now buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Connor Whiteley. Also, if you know anyone who would enjoy today's story, then please share it with them. I'm always really grateful when you wonderful people help spread the word about the channel. So, thanks for watching the Whiteleyverse, and I'll see you again soon. Have a great day, everyone.